My name is Elliot Haspel and welcome to the first edition of Best Practices Weekly, where I read the professional literature so you don't have to. I was a teacher myself and I know exactly how busy we all are as teachers and how even if we want to know the best practice research on instruction out there, we often just don't have the time. So what I'm going to do is read the professional journals, read the professional magazines, find the best, most actionable pieces of information, and summarize them to you. The first article comes from The Reading Teacher, and it's by two University of Florida professors who talk about ways to have word-conscious classrooms, which is another way of saying classrooms where vocabulary is being built constantly throughout the day. The essence of the idea these professors put forth is that we use everyday words that we can actually scaffold the vocabulary to help our students use larger, more advanced words without even knowing that they're learning vocabulary. So, for example, many of us have classroom jobs, and one of the most famous and most popular jobs is to be the line leader. Kids always want to be the line leader. And so what the professors say is, okay, so if you have a line leader in the beginning of the year, what you can do is, a few months into the year, switch the name of that job. Instead of having a line leader, now you have the classroom movement coordinator, which might seem a little bit silly, but what you've just done is taught your students the word coordinator, or if they're younger, you've also taught them the word movement. And they don't even without any explicit vocabulary instruction. Another example the professor gives is that oftentimes we talk about the weather outside, and especially in younger grade classrooms, we come together at the beginning of the day and we talk about what's the weather outside. And if it's winter time, then often the answer might be cold. And if we want our students to have more advanced vocabulary, we might ask them, what's another way we can say what it's like outside? And they might say, it's really cold. It's really, really, really cold. But that's ultimately not getting what we want. So again, what you can do is start teaching students, no, instead of saying cold, what we're going to say is we're going to describe this as rather brisk. Or if it's really the dead of winter, maybe we're describing it as frigid. A third example that they give is that oftentimes students use the word nice. It's one of the favorite words of elementary school students is to call things nice. This character in the book was nice. You are my friend because you are nice. I like you, teacher, because you're nice. But ultimately, again, not the most advanced type of vocabulary. And so the professors talk about teaching students that instead of calling someone nice, what we want to do is think about more advanced words like gracious, or perhaps someone we'd like this person is your friend because they're humble. Those sorts of things. So, while you're scaffolding up vocabulary throughout the day, the professors offer that there are actually better ways to do it, and there are very strategic ways to do it, and there's pretty much a three-step process. The first step, they say, is to make a list of everyday words. So, think about words you use during your procedures and during your routines in your classrooms. Think about words you use during reading often, words you use often during math, during science, during social studies, etc. So first, just be very strategic about brainstorming the lists of words you use at different times during the day. Secondly, decide on advanced synonyms. So, for example, some words like cold or like nice are going to lend themselves to lots of synonyms. You're going to be able to say gracious, you're going to be able to say humble, you're going to say frigid and brisk. There are other words, though, you use often in your classroom that just aren't going to have very many advanced synonyms. I think of, like, the whiteboard. You might be able to come up with some other way to call it a whiteboard, but for all intents and purposes, it's just a whiteboard. So that might not be the best term to look for a synonym with. Lastly, once you've chosen which words you're going to have advanced synonyms for, they say plan for how you're going to introduce the words. Some words are going to be very easy to do just by implication. So, again, classroom movement coordinator, line leader, they all know, students can see it, students can experience it, it's very easy for them to get what classroom movement coordinator means without any explicit instruction from you. But there are other words that is going to take more explicit instruction. So humble might be a word that younger students don't actually know, like what would distinguish someone who is gracious or kind from someone who's humble. How is that a different version of being nice? And so that's going to still require some explicit vocabulary instruction the same way you would introduce any other kind of word. But in conclusion, the professors note that if you're doing this throughout the day, what you're essentially doing is your classroom becomes a word workshop. Throughout the day, every small to big thing that you're doing, you're building up students' vocabularies and building up their lexicons, and you're making them really think about words in ways that they often don't, because oftentimes students just think vocabulary is something that you do for 15 minutes at one part of the day. And the professors end by noting that the best way to have a word-conscious classroom is really to just be a word-conscious teacher yourself. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.